Thank you all. Welcome to this session. This is the first ever APAC session jointly run by GainInsights, Qlik and Microsoft. We've called it the Azure ML Series. I welcome guests from various time zones. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you are. And I want to give you a small, before we kick in, want to give you a very quick walkthrough of what will be the agenda for the next 60 minutes. So we will have three primary segments. We'll kick off with an introduction, a little bit of why this series, why we're doing this webinar, and the purpose of it. We will then have segment one, which is demand planning for modern times. Quick overview followed by a demonstration of it on Azure. And from there, we will move to the second segment, which is automated data delivery, where the Qlik team would talk about the overview of QDI and then followed by demonstration. After which the third segment would start, where we'll have an overview of Azure Synapse. So once these segments are done, we will then take up Q&A. A few basic things to know. This is a webcast, which is cast to all our audiences. So you would not be able to come on board and speak, but you can always put your questions. You can send us chat messages, and we will collate them all. And at the end of the session, we will address them in order of how they were asked. Now, we also have a small poll at the end of the session. I would request, as participants, please fill them and give us your feedback. And with this, I want to kick off. Introducing the team here, the three main panelists, Ram from GainInsights. Ram heads the data science at GainInsights. He's had a lot of experience working with large brands and in deploying analytical use cases, especially in the likes of large FMCG brands, globally known brands. And he's going to cover demand planning as a concept today. We have Fahad from Qlik, who will talk about, he's an expert on Qlik QDI, so he's going to talk about why QDI. He's going to talk about real-time data streaming and so on, and he will cover that as a second segment, followed by Nilesh. He's a global black belt lead and Asia Pacific lead for Azure from Microsoft. He's going to cover an overview of Synapse. So I'm Sankarshna, and I am from the marketing and growth team at GainInsights. I'm going to give a context to this webinar and then hand it over to our panelists to take it forward from there. Very quickly, we are a very passionate data analytics firm, and our whole purpose is around removing data friction from customers. About 165 customers spread across the world. We've worked with them in various areas, especially in areas of bringing together data integration with high velocity, making sure that the business is aligned to data by running data science use cases on top of modern technologies. So we work with the likes of Qlik and Microsoft in bringing this to our customers worldwide. We've had the opportunity to work with some of the largest brands, biggest custodian bank, large airlines, and so on and so forth. Our expertise covers various industries. So today, as a part of this, we are hosting this webinar, and with the intent of removing data friction that comes in the way of data, all the way up to tapping insights. So let me start with why this series. I think it's extremely important. Today, as with most of our customers who use data enterprise systems, like could be SAP, it could be Oracle, whatever you use, the most important thing is how do you go from there into generating and running use cases that are required in a rapidly changing world? Uh, we primarily understand that there are three drivers for this. One is, how do you accelerate? How do you get businesses from where they are uh, to real-time insights? How do you take the data? How do you automate? And how do you bring them into real-time insights as a mechanism? The second thing is, once you bring them, how do you scale? How do you take the power of data science to business and not just contain it within data science communities? How do you help business run multiple use cases while they accelerate and generate real-time insights? Now, having done acceleration and scale, how do you sustain this, and how do you make sure every dollar that our customers invest is really worth it and it's done optimally by using modern scaling technologies and paying for what really matters, right? So it's very important that we strongly believe that an integrated blueprint that comprises an element of acceleration, scale, and sustenance is important for any data-driven company in this rapidly changing world. And hence we started this Azure ML series. The first episode of this is kicking off today, and I'm quite happy to hand it over to Ram. But the next few minutes, what you will see is a use case of demand planning, an agile demand planning. A very old problem, but has a lot of relevance even today. So Ram is going to cover how do you accelerate demand planning use case on Azure, and how do you bring, what is the role of QDI in this, and at the end of it, how do you really see business impact and value? So over to Ram.
Thank you, Sankrishna, and thank you all for joining us for the webinar today. I'm Ram Kumar, and I head the data science practice here at GainInsights. Over the next few minutes, I want to walk you through our demand planning tool. But before I do that, I want to set context and I want to set some background in terms of why we even developed this tool, right? So over the last few years, most people that I've spoken to, irrespective of the industry they belong to, irrespective of the vertical, irrespective of the domain that they work for, the most common problem that I hear from them is about demand forecasting. So be it somebody from banking industry, you need to know the number of new account, number of new customers that are going to come in next month, next week, or hotel or hospitals or airlines, right? So you need to know how many bookings are going to happen so that can feed into your dynamic pricing, right? So and of course, retail and manufacturing are the obvious examples, right? So a lot of retailers that I've spoken to have talked about overstock problem. They have a lot of stock lying around for items that do not sell, and again, out of stock is a big problem for them. So the fast moving goods, right? So they will move out of stock very quickly, and these retailers were not able to forecast the demand, and then they are playing the catch-up game. So and out of stock is actually a double-edged sword. You don't only lose the sales, but there's a good chance that you're going to lose the customer as well, right? As a customer, if I walk into a store and I keep on not finding the products that I'm looking for, I'll go to a competitive store, right? And if it happens too many times, I will probably switch to that competitor. And we all know that retaining a customer is 5 times less expensive than actually acquiring a customer. I'll also give an example of a manufacturing company. So last year I was talking to one of the leading cycle manufacturers in India, and the problem that they were facing is that they had a lot of unsold inventory in their warehouse for the brands and the SKUs that were not selling well. Okay. And to add to that, they also had a lot of raw material lying on their factory floors for again the similar SKUs that were not doing well. So this is a classical output of not having a robust forecasting mechanism in place. So the point that I'm trying to make over here is that no matter which industry you work for and where you work, demand forecasting is something that anybody can use and everybody needs, right? So traditionally, these models were built by these forecasting models were built by a bunch of data scientists using last year's data and last 2-3 years worth of data. And then these forecasts were sent out as CSV files to decision makers or stakeholders like sales and CXOs and buyers, etc. Right? So this is a very archaic way of doing things. But the good news is with the big strides that we have made in the space of AI, right? So we can be more agile. By that, what I mean is that we don't really need to depend on last year's worth of data, right? With technologies like QDI, you have real-time streaming of data, right? E-commerce gets data real-time. So you want your last week's, yesterday's, even last hour's data to tell you what your sales is going to be now, what is going to be next week, and not last year's, right? So this has made the whole process very agile. As a salesperson, if I have to see something, if I have to see forecast for next week, right, I don't really need to send an email to a data scientist asking him to run a model for me, and in turn they're going to come back to me next week or even tomorrow for that matter. You know, if I'm a salesperson, I want to just run it with a click of a button and I can see the forecast using this AI-based demand planning tool. The last but not the least, right, is the scale, is the sustenance or the scalability of it, right? So what happens is that these models can be you want to see granular insights, right? You want to see insights at SKU level, at store level, because that's where the decisions are made, right? A store manager orders inventory, right? So this needs to be made at a very low level, right? And that can be done only when you're using cloud computing or even parallel processing, right? Because you're building millions of models at a very quick pace, and thanks to Azure, we can do all this with a click of a button. That's what we have used in our tool. So having set the context, I want to jump into the demo, but I just want to put a disclaimer before I go there, right? So with the number of features that are available on the tool, I'll at least need an hour. So I'm going to confine it to, I'll actually call it a curtain raiser. I'll just show you the basic features of the tool, and we can arrange a demo if needed offline, right? So this is the front end. This is where you land. So once you have provided the login and the password, this is where you land. The platform is called Straight. So over here on the screen, you see the number of projects that have been created by this particular company, different people on this company, right? So you have Cindy Carson, Rob O'Neill, and other different analysts who have built these forecasts. So these are already existing forecasts. Some of them are complete, some of them are running. So you get the status over here. And people can subscribe obviously with your permission to the forecast that you have built. You know, so if I'm a salesperson, I can subscribe to the forecast that you have built, and I can actually do some analysis without actually touching the model. I can do some analysis and get the insights that I need, which I want to show you in the subsequent screens. So these are the existing ones. I can also build a new forecast by clicking on this button. I can provide the forecast name, I can give the description, I can give the data set name, and I can add new data sets. So these are the existing data sets that I can pull in, or I can give you, or I can upload new data sets. Okay, so I can upload flat files, I can connect to a database, I can connect to if my data is online, I can connect to a URL, right? So once I have done that, I can build my model. I'm going to show you the model phase now, but for this demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use one of the existing forecasts. So just to give you some background, so this data set is for an ice cream company which has 3 brands: Truffles, Dazzlers, and Swirlers. Again, it's a plug and play tool. Does not matter which industry you come from. If you have sales data, if you have like new customers data, any data, it can be plugged over here, and you are good to go. Okay. So this data that we see is ice cream. So 3 different brands, multiple products, 11 different products. The data is that. So the product is the most granular level of product. So these products add up to brand. And then the most granular level of geography is market. Okay. So I have market level data. So this is again this is tertiary sales data that we have got, weekly sales data. You can see this is the time variable, since it's time series forecasting, right? So you'll have to have a times, you'll have to have a column that denotes the time, right? So this is weekly data. Week ending is the column that denotes the time. These markets add up to state, and states add up to division, which in turn adds up to region, and region adds up to country. So these are geographical dimensions that I have in the data. Volume sales is the KPI that I'm interested in forecasting. I have additional variables like average price per volume. Okay. And what we have also done is that we have uploaded 2 more files. One is your holidays, because we believe these holidays are going to have an impact on these brand sales, right? So back to school is when children go back to school in the US. So this happens during the last week of August or first 2 weeks of September. And that's when we actually see a peak in ice cream sales. And then Easter during summer, again, we can see a peak in sales. So we have used these additional regressors. Then there are some offers that the company runs, and it wants to capture the impact of these offers on sales, right? So we have uploaded them as separate files. Okay. And these bars that you see on top are a very good indicator of how good your data is, right? So this entire green section shows that your data is full and complete and without any issue. The red bar shows the percentage of data that is unclean or missing. The bars at the bottom, they show the distribution of your column, right? So you can see there will be 9 categories over here, and the length of the bar will show you what percentage of that category belongs to that particular variable, right? Now, again, this is not just a visualization page. You can do a lot of heavy lifting, and you can do a lot of pre-processing with just a click of a button. So if you click on this drop down, you'll get a lot of different options that you can do. So anything that you can think of as a pre-processing step for a forecasting project is included over here. Okay, and these are optimized in terms of core usage and all that. So it runs at a very, very quick pace, and you don't really need to write codes and all. So you can rename, you can sort in ascending, descending order, you can change type of a variable, because if you have a dummy variable, you want to encode it to 1 or 0 and all that, right? So we can do all that with a click of a button. You can do outlier cutting, you can do missing value imputation, you can do all the imputations using neural networks, etc. with the click of a button. These are inbuilt recipes. And so this is at the column level. Even at the data set level, I can do the same things, okay, by adding a new step over here. So for this particular project, we had 6 steps that we used for pre-processing. You also have an option of adding and joining and merging new data, right? So you can do inner, left, out, join, all that. You can provide the key column, and it does the merging and joining. So over here, I'm showing you joining, but you can also do the merging, as you can see in this drop-down menu. So the beauty of, and you can also write your own commands, R or Python to run this thing, to run your recipe. And the beauty of this and the best part of it is this: all these steps gets saved. Okay, so you have done it on the trained data. Now every time the data is refreshed, be it real time, be it weekly, monthly, daily. So the same steps are followed. So once the raw data gets ingested into the system, it goes through the same steps, goes through the same pre-processing pipeline, and your data is ready for forecast. You don't have to bother once you have done it. So once the data is ready, I'm going to jump into the forecast piece, which is basically the meat of what we are, or the most important part of what we want to show, right? So this forecast module has 4 sub-modules. I'm going to start with prepare. So prepare is where you provide all the settings to, or all the parameters to the model. So the first one is algorithm. So in this example, we have actually 6 algorithms, 6 forecasting algorithms in place, but currently we support 9. Auto ML, as the name suggests, is automated, and it runs all the possible algorithms that are there. It will give you the best model depending upon the accuracy metric that you select. By default, the accuracy metric that we follow is MAPE. The negative part of it is that it takes some time, because it obviously runs a lot of models. But the good part is that it will give you the best model, right? So, and then there are other models that are more traditional and even modern ones. I'm going to talk a little bit about them in the next step. This is a date variable. This is where you provide which one is your time series variable. So in the data set, I showed you that week ending was the column that actually represents time, right? So over here, you provide the model that is your time series variable. Again, the data is at weekly level. If it was yearly, monthly, quarterly, you could have selected the right option. Now this setting option, it lets you select the look back and the forecast period. So the look back period is nothing but how far back you want to look at your data to build a model. So that is all. That is a parallel over here, right? So in this particular example, we have used 26 months of data for building the model, and the forecast period is how far forward you want to forecast. So for our use case, or for our demo, we have used 3 different, three months worth of forecast, right? And you can go all the way up to 1 year. So once you have provided this detail, you also have to tell the system what is the KPI that you want to forecast. In this case, it is volume sales. You can we are doing total weekly volume sales. You could have selected average, median, mode, but that doesn't make sense here. So we are going to stick to sum of volume sales. Over here, you provide the hierarchy. So like your region is going to add up to country, and your division is going to add up to region, right? So this one will help you building these reports, right? And again, you have to mention the holidays. So these are the additional regressors whose impact you're going to capture. So back to school and Easter will have some impact on your sales, and that's why you're going to flag them separately. Again, events that you can run. So typically your retailers will run multiple campaigns, right? So you can select all those campaigns over here so that we can capture the impact of all those campaigns. Last point over here in this page is where you denote the attributes. The attributes are basically, they serve two purposes. One is for you to, so if I'm a brand manager, right, I want to look at overall brand sales. By default, what happens is that the models are built at the most granular level. In this case, it was product and market. But if I'm brand manager, I want to look at the overall brand as well. So I provide that option over here. I say I want to look at the models at brand level, at division level. This is where you can mention it, right? I can also look at, say, uh, at any level that I want, right? So, and also one more important thing it does is that as soon as you provide the attributes, right? So like, let's say that your data has attributes like flavor, color, and pack size and pack type and all that. All these attributes have impact on your sales, right? So we can use that information to predict the sales of new product. So new product sales forecast is a big challenge for a lot of companies because you don't really have past data so that you can build a robust forecast, right? But attributes are what drive these sales, and we capture this information. We build a very advanced attribute model, and based on that, we forecast the sales for new product. So once you have provided all this information, you hit the run button and your model start running. And the model, once the model is complete, you can see that in this particular example, we have 6 different kinds of models. So I'm going to just show you the histogram over here. So you have profit, SARI max, halt winters, SES, and VAR and LSTM. And profit itself is the best model, so it's recommended for deployment. So profit was originally developed by Facebook, and it is a very versatile model. It is used by different industries. It was made open source by Facebook a few years ago. Then SARI max, halt winters, and SES and VAR are the traditional econometric models that are a part of our model building. And then there is long short-term memory model, which is a neural network modern model that we use, and it is also very widely used across different industries nowadays. So we have these models, and you clearly see that I mean it's a close tie between it's a close this thing between race between profit and LSTM, but profit actually outperforms every other model. That's why we recommend it for deployment. So now this forecast, if you click on this forecast, right? Okay, and one more thing, that the metric that we are showing over here, the accuracy is MAPE. Okay, so it's that's what we show. And by default, we split your look back period into train and test 80-20, so that we are not overfitting. You know, we want to see the accuracy in train period and how it is doing in the test period. So you don't have to worry about overfitting the model. So this screen out here shows the forecast for Swirler's total US, right? So the black dots actually show your actual sales, and the blue line shows the forecasted sales. And the band and the background shows the 90% confidence interval. What that means is 90 out of 100 times your sales should fall between these two gaps. And you can see that they are pretty close, you know. And then this black line denotes the demarcation between the look back period and forecast period. Okay? And you can see that in forecast period, obviously we did not have the value, so there are no black dots, right? So you can see the accuracy of the model over here. And when you click on this contribution of regressors, it tells you what the additional regressors, how the additional regressors are impacting your sales, right? So we have Easter, buy one get one offer, we have combo offer, and we have back to school. So these bars show you the magnitude of the impact they had on your sales. This chart over here is a very powerful chart. It tells you the health of the model, right? So if you look at this particular chart over here, if I had to draw a trend line, it will almost be a flat line, right? So what that tells me is that the model is doing fine. No, it's doing as well as it was doing when the model was built. But you need to think about refreshing the model once it starts becoming upward sloping, you know. So if if it was something like this, or if it was at an acute angle, you would have had to refresh the model, you know, because your error would have been going up, right? So so these are at an overall level. Now once you have decided what you want to deploy, so we obviously give you a recommendation, but if you deploy a model, once the model is deployed, you can go to the series option. Here you can look at individual series, right? So the chart that I showed you was for total swirlers, but if you want to look at say West Texas double chocolate swirler, you want to look at one series at a time, you can do that with a click of a button. This dotted line shows you the forecast and the fitted model for double choco chip solar for the West Texas market. Okay, and the background bands, they show you how these three brands are doing at an overall total US level. And you can see the lighter backgrounds are +1 standard deviation, +2 standard deviation. So quite clearly, this skew has been doing well in this market. Okay, I can look at multiple series for comparison. Okay, so what it clearly shows is this green line, right? So for some reason, double choco chip solar in Fort Worth is doing really well. It's very popular there, and it continues to consistently outperform the overall sales, the overall average sales in the total US. Okay, and on the other hand, this orange line which is for blueberry swirler in West Texas. It doesn't do that well. It's not a very popular brand over there. So what this information helps you is to identify SKUs that you can drop. And in case of well-performing SKUs, you want to invest there. You want to invest in those locations. So all that decision can be aided with the help of this information, right? I'm going to jump to override the last module. So okay, so here you can override. So for some reason, if you believe that your forecast would be better, you can actually override the numbers using this table over here, override table. So you can actually, if the forecast is 125,485, but if you have a reason to believe it could be more, you can do that. You can actually add, you can increase or decrease it by percentage, by units, etc. Right? So this is going to feed into your inventory optimization or buying plan, right? So the last piece that I want to touch upon is scenario analysis. This is what I call actionable insights. So, okay, I know what the sales is going to be. You have given me a forecast of sales, right? So I can see this is the forecast. Okay. Now, maybe I'm not happy with this sales. Okay. So what can I do? I can run offers. That's the only lever that I have in this data set. If you are a brand manager, you have price, you have other things to play with, right? Merchandising, etc. But these are the offers that I can run in this data set, right? So I want to increase the sales. So let me run a scenario over here. Let me just run this buy one get one offer in these 3 weeks. Okay. And then I'm going to maybe not do anything for the next 3 weeks. And then let me run this combo offer for the last 3 weeks. I want to see the impact of these offers on my sales, whether it actually moves me up or what happens. So you can see that my sales goes up, right? My sales goes up on the weeks that I'm running these offers, right? So this actually helps me optimize my offers as well, when I should run them and what would be the impact on all that. So this is pretty much what I wanted to showcase today. Yeah, so this is pretty much the architecture. So you can see that live data streaming coming from the on the left hand side. So that's coming through QDI, and then that data gets ingested into our system, which is straight. So the front end that you saw straight, and all the models, they run on Azure. So it actually not only runs the model, but also optimizes the cores and the number of nodes that are nodes that are going to run on each core. So it gives you so it's cost efficient as well as fast. And then again, the models, once they are run, that get fed into the straight platform, and you can see it and you can consume it from there. Right? So this is the architecture. So this is what I wanted to cover today. Now I want to pass it on to Fahad to talk to us about the QDI piece.
Sure. Thanks, Ram. That was quite a lot of things around the capabilities that you presented. It's great. So while you saw what all you could do with the data, right? So the use cases that Ram spoke about, the only way that you could do is if you unlock your data from where you have stored it. So that, for matter of fact, it could be SAP, where you have a lot of your transactional data in different modules. So how do you get to the target? So our Qlik data integration platform is capable to unlock your data in real time, move your data from SAP to any target that you expect. In this case, it's the Azure Synapse Analytics, where we could replicate the data in real time. And once we have replicated the data to Azure Synapse Analytics, we could also automate a lot of processes that you do. I did see one question in the panel around how do you prepare that data, right? Or how do you transform the data so that you could use that in the final solution? So that's how you'd be able to do it using our data integration platform, where once the data is replicated, we enable the compose layer to do the automation of all the transformations that you want. Right. So the first step that is getting your data out in real time. So we use our Qlik transports using our data integration, which is called as Qlik Replicate. So it enables you to connect to any data across SAP modules and move that data in real time to Azure. So that also includes creating of target schemas. That means it is as simple as you don't have to really predefine your target tables or schemas. You could just select the tables or data from SAP, load it to Azure, and then follow it up with our compose layer. Our replicate engine does a CDC based on logs. So that means that there's absolutely no load on the transactional system. So it uses the logs to do the change data capture. It can propagate DDL, you can do filtering, and you can also do simple transformations. While once you have done this, the next step would be, next slide. Next step would be to enable you to transform that data. So our Qlik data, a compose for data warehouse can automate a lot of things for you. That can automate model generation, which generally takes a lot of time by the time you define your data sources, understand the tables. With our experience, we have automated certain aspects. So it can do automated mapping generation where you normally end up spending a lot of time generating these mappings manually. Everything is automated. We can generate error marks. We can deliver the final data into your data marts from where you could use the data into your applications. And the best part, we could automate the documentation creation, right? That becomes a pretty big challenge when you are doing a lot of transformations to document everything. So using our automated document creation capability, you could do all of these things. So there are a lot of capabilities that we can manage, right? So we can like bring in type 1, type 2 changes. We can manage referential integrity, have like all the entire data model with the facts and the dimensions spread across. That said, the slides, let me quickly jump onto the demo. That would be the main aspect. So, all right, everyone, I hope you're able to see my screen right. This is our Qlik replicate engine. Like I said, it's as simple as connecting to SAP, selecting the tables and pointing it to the target. So the first step is, of course, you define your connection. So replicate can connect to multiple sources or multiple databases. For example, you could see here, I have a lot of data sources where MongoDB, MySQL. The point of interest is our SAP, which is over here, which I would say SAP O2 order to cache connector that we have created, right? Once I have created this, of course, the one I can do also is create targets. So the ones you're seeing again, there are multiple targets that I connect to. The interesting part is the Azure Synapse, right? I define what connectivity I have and I can do it. Now on Synapse, I've done nothing. I'm not going to go to the Azure platform yet. All I'm going to do is create a new task. I'm going to say it as Sales ML Series demo. Right? Now, when I'm replicating, I have multiple methods to replicate. Unidirectional, basically from source to target. Bidirectional, I can enable synchronization between two databases. Of course, in this scenario, we would not be doing between Azure and SAP, but in case you have two databases where you want to have bidirectional synchronization between databases, you can do that. The interesting aspect is we can also do log streaming. From SAP, I can put data into Kafka point topics so that you could use that streaming data into your applications. For this demo, we'll be looking at unidirectional. Of course, I can do full load, apply changes, store changes. In this scenario, I want to do change data capture. So first thing is, of course, I want to do a full load of data that is already existing, and I want to apply changes as the transactions keep increasing. I'll just say, okay, this gives me a very simple GUI where I can, again, the endpoints that I showed earlier, I can select sources. In this case, it's SAP, drag and drop. Again, I can select the targets. In this case, it's Azure Synapse. Once I've defined my source and target, the next step I have to do is just select the tables. So select, search for the tables that I have. I remember some certain sales distribution tables from SAP. So like, I'm sure you all know how SAP is structured. So there's a lot of tables that are available across different modules. The tables that are on top of my mind are VCITM. I think these are some sales distribution, VAITM and VDITM. Right, these are the three tables. I'll say okay. Once I've selected the tables, I can do certain transformations that I spoke to you about, right? So maybe I want to change the name of the table. I want to change the schema of the table. So I can give a different schema, a different table, map it to that schema. Or I might not want to replicate all the fields. So I get a choice whether I want to replicate or I want to replicate everything or few things only. I can add a column. So this is where we add new calculations. Maybe you want to create a calculated parameter out of the already existing fields before you replicate. You can do that. You can use headers, variables, operators, and we have a lot of functions. Of course, I would want to get into every detail of this, but again, like Ram said, we would need us together to do it. I'm happy to do it one-on-one. This demo, I'm just gonna give you a primer of what this is. Once I've done this, all I have to do is save and hit run. Once this runs, the data gets loaded. I have done this earlier. Already a CDC is running for the same tables. I'm just going to show you. What happens is the data gets loaded. So if you see here, VITM has transferred around 27,300 records, 530. In fact, VCITM had zero records. But this is an ongoing process. You see here, I just get a button and I can see the change processing. At this point of time, there are no changes. Like I said, there are different changes that we can manage: insert, update, delete, DDL changes, and you can monitor what exactly is happening, how many changes happened, what are those changes, right? That gives you clarity on what it is. How does it look in Azure platform? Let me just go to the signups. These are the three tables that have come in over here, right? VAITM, VCITM, VTITM. A replicate engine enables you to do this easily. Like the first step is simple, just drag and drop, move it. Once you have done it, the changes are in real time. Any changes in SAP data would be replicated to the Azure platform. Once you have done it, once you have got your data into Azure, next what? Like I was talking about, there's a lot of things that you need to do before you create your data mart or your data warehouse, right? That's what our compose layer enables you to do that. So in our compose layer, again, I've defined what my data warehouse would be and where my source would be. So source is again Azure Synapse. I can choose a data warehouse again on Azure, or I can do a SQL server or any other data warehouse that I want to. Once I've done it, I can define. So I was talking to you about this automating the model generation and the mappings. So once I use this discover option, all the mappings and the model generation is created, right? I can also import it from any other party tool where you have defined. For example, Irwin is one of the tools where you define the ETL mappings, right? So you can bring that in and use that. Once I have this, I can see what entities are there. And these are the same tables that we brought in, right? So, okay. I can look at what attributes are there. For this data, I have not defined any relationships. I can look at different attributes. Once I have done this, I can create data warehouse. For example, here I have created using these tables doing certain mappings. If you really want to see how the mappings are from the source to the target, you could do it. You want to create additional, you want to create using multi-table ETL, you can do that. In this case, I've not done it. There are a lot of things that you could automate. When I say automate, all you have to do is select the tables, select the source, select the target. You could generate the entire ETL script and reuse it and process it. Of course, you want to edit it, you can do it. Finally, what you can do it is set up a data mart. So you have the ability to create any data mart. So in this case, I've just created a single table data mart that can be used into the Stride platform that just Ram demonstrated. So all in all, the capability of our replicate the data integration platform is enabling you to move your data in real time and then automating all the steps that you take ages to do it. How does this help in the Stride platform? Anything that you want to get out of SAP at this point of time, with whatever I've discussed with multiple customers, takes hours together, days together, right? So that's the challenge that is predominantly there when you want to get real-time decision making. Like Ram mentioned about a use case where you walk into a store and you don't find the products. What exactly does that mean? That means there's a lot of process behind it, which takes hours together, days together to run that and get you a right product into the shelf. And that's what we are gonna reduce time with a real-time replication and automation that will give you that edge to make that take that decision quickly. Qlik Replicate can connect to multiple modules of SAP. So it could be production planning, HR, material master, financial, supply chain management, sales and distribution. We can do it. We can extract data from multiple folders and multiple modules. So we do have our own transports that are again certified by SAP, and we could use that. All right, that said, I'll pass the buck to Nilesh to run you through the Azure platform. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Fahad, thanks, Ram. So we have seen how we can do demand forecasting for a very specific requirement while we have data sitting in SAP, and we have seen the tool how we can bring this data out of SAP and bring into Azure. Now, the key question that comes to our mind is when the data comes to Synapse, what is Synapse all about? How do you do the entire modeling part of it? How do you ensure my data set is completely secure and stuff like that? So I'll just take you through few minutes and introduce you Azure Synapse Analytics. So when you talk about any modern estate, when you look at the key components that you really require from data estate standpoint, the first thing is, of course, the data sources, whether you bring it data in batch or you bring it in streamings, you ingest that into a store. Once you bring that into store, you do transformation, modeling, and serving, and then you present back to visualization. You would want to do a lot of AI ML out there. So all of these components are really required from modern data estate standpoint. And at the bottom of it, you will require orchestration, governance, and development tools. So Synapse is all about all of this. When you talk about visualization, we know that there is a component called Power BI, which has been effectively used for years together from Microsoft, which is now embedded as part of Synapse. We have Azure Machine Learning Cognitive Services, which is available as part of Synapse. Then you have Synapse data store available where you can physicalize your models, and you have a good modeling environment where you can do using low code, no code, or code first kind of environment to do all the modeling part of it. And you have a data lake storage available. The current one is Gen 2, which is available with hierarchical priorities out there to define you the entire data sets which is being sitting in the data lake. In the monitoring part, we have Azure Purview, Azure DevOps, which helps you to do the development. And for streaming and batch process, like we have seen Qlik, there are also components available from Azure, which is like Event Hub, Azure Data Factory, which can also be used. So how do this all put together in Synapse? When we look at Synapse workspace, the workspace gives you a unified experience so that you have a single pane of glass for doing all the activities that we just narrated about, right from bringing in data from all your varied variety of data sources into one common platform, and then you store that across and make those modeling available. So when from the development experience standpoint, you are not moving out of from one single place. You have a Synapse Studio available, which will help you to do all the integration part of it, management of data part of it, monitoring of data part of it, and also the security part of it. So this gives a good bouquet of services available in a single studio. Of course, there are various engines available, given that we have data coming in from structured data like SAP, or you might have unstructured data which is coming in from other sources like devices and stuff like that. We have Spark engine available. We have SQL on demand and SQL provision, and I'll get into details of each of these at a high level. And finally, we have data lake storage. So what is Synapse Analytics all about? When we look at Synapse Analytics and when you look at the cloud, what is required is I should have the flexibility of scaling up and down at my requirement. Like on-premise world, we need to forecast your requirement for next 3 to 5 years, and you need to provision for that and get your capacity defined and have that boxes sitting in your on-premise upfront. But in cloud, you get that flexibility of defining or scaling up and down your environment based on your needs. So at times, let's say there is some promotion going on and you want to buy and want additional scale out there, you can just request for on the portal itself, you can just increase the capacity and you have those additional capacity at your disposal. and once that promotion is done, you want to scale down and bring it back, you can do that as well. So that way you have a flexibility of scaling up and down. We get good powerful insights, as we have seen so far in the demo, how we were able to bring in demand forecasting data, put together. Let's say if you have some more transformation to be done where you want to also understand market data, you want to bring in market intelligence data and want to build more powerful insights, you can do that as well. It gives you a unified experience, and it also has unmatched security. This is an important element because when you talk about having all this data put together, this data estate has to be secure enough. So what securities are we offering? The next slides talk about all the security that we have, right from protecting your data, even if it in transit, at rest, or let's say at the time of doing data discovery and classification of the data. From the governance standpoint, it helps you to define the right access controls for all the objects, be it tables, views that you create, but also at the row level, column level securities provided. We also have a provision of dynamic data masking, which helps you to mask certain sensitive information, like for example, if you have your Aadhaar ID, for example, in India, or let's say unique identifier of an individual. If you have those kind of number and you want to mask that information while at rest, you can use those data masking kind of features out there. The next thing is authentication. When you look at authentication of the person who's looking at accessing information, whether the person has right authentication or not, that's something which is available through Azure Data Directory and also through multi-factor authentication. The key element out there is the network security. So you have an option to do an express route. You have an option to define a manage virtual network. You have good options to look at right from network security, threat protection of your data, and also defining the isolation that is required for various data segments that you have for storing this information. So the reason I'm spending a little bit time here on data security is because this is a critical element which is running in most of the customer's mind about securing their data when the data is on cloud. So this is to iterate that the security piece is very well covered when it comes to Azure Data Estate and especially Synapse. So other key element is about governance of data. So when you talk about governance of data, you want to do a data mapping, data lineage, you want to be a compliance perspective, you have to be secured, and you want to do data discovery of what kind of data is coming in from what sources and where the data is going. So it gives you a good view of the complete life cycle of data movement in the entire journey. So Azure Purview is a component which helps you to do that. It's very important for us to understand that when you talk about Synapse, it gives you unified experience not only from a single pane that we talked about, but also from making the services available in almost zero maintenance perspective. And that's why it is also backed up by SLAs which are governed by financially. So we have 99.99 kind of SLAs available. So that ensures that for any mission critical applications for your organization, the services are up and running throughout the tenure. The key element that we have in Synapse is we understand the business requires various scenarios where, for example, there are times when you want to do some ad hoc queries and you do not have time to go through the entire life cycle of data movement. The data is available in your data lake, but you want to make it available quickly for any dirty analytics that you want to do and stuff like that. So we have various engines available in Synapse. Like we have serverless, which helps you to do that ad hoc analysis. We have dedicated pool, which is available wherein you can predefine your models and make data available for any analytics that you have already defined in advance. So we have clear demarcation of serverless and dedicated compute, which really helps in making your analytics very agile. Other important part out there is it's a cost-effective solution. And how we have made it cost-effective? We have made the scaling of compute and storage very independent. Unlike today, where we have, let's say, if you have 5 terabytes of data, you apart from the storage, you will also need that much of compute capacity to ensure that there is proper I/O between the storage and the compute. That is something very unique in Synapse. We have completely have different scalings for your storage and for your compute. As you have seen, there are multiple compute engines available. It can go independently based on the workload, and the storage will be increased or decreased based on purely the data size that you're storing on the storage. So that way you have a very effective way of managing your cost by decoupling your compute and the storage. So this is a very unique offering from Synapse. So to summarize, what we have seen today is just one example about bringing in doing a demand forecasting, wherein data is coming in from enterprise. Now enterprise can have various data sets, like for example you have CRM, marketing, finance. So there are host of systems in place. Now there is other data which is coming in, as you can see on the right hand side, which is getting data purely from the process standpoint, right? Be it from your logistics, be it from production line, be it from social media, it could be from market, or it could be your IoT devices. So the data estate, what we're doing is we're marrying all of this together and bringing all the data onto a common platform. Be the data types be internal, it could be external, it could be human generated, it could be machine generated, it could be structured data, it could be unstructured data. So all of this data comes together onto a common lake, and then you do all the processing out on top of it, and use all the capabilities of AI ML and define your descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and stuff like that. Finally, this gives you a good governance of your data, which can be used through your partners, through your customers, through your employees, and really give them the experience of real-time and predictive insights. So with that, I will end the session here. Yeah, there is a question from audience which is asking some examples of SLA. So when we talk about SLAs of Azure services, we generally give a percentage of monthly uptime percentage, which is an example which I just talked about of Synapse, but similarly for all the services that we have on Azure.
There is one more question from Vijay Babu, Vice President Commercial at Swinger Stater India Private Limited. He has asked, I am keen to look at demand forecasting models for relating spare parts. Would like to have one-on-one presentation in that. So Vijay will connect with you after this after this session, and we'll schedule that presentation for you. The second question is from Kaushal Dave from Aeratech. He has asked, where does the master data and transactional data processing happen? For example, if you would, you would have most of this data in various SAP tables, and you would have to do master data cleansing and transactional data validation to build that data table you showed. Also, the second question which he has is, does the pre-processing step cover the SKUs which are promotional and non-promotional?
Yeah, so the pre-processing happens on Azure, and it does cover all the SKUs, promote. So you can actually provide those options at SKU level. So the ones that are promoted as well as the ones that are non-promoted. The advertising of the product, right? So see, there are two ways of doing advertising, right? So since advertising on TV and all have long-term impacts, right? So we can use you can build marketing mix model for that. But if you want to capture in a quick and dirty way, especially TV and radio, which have long-term impacts, right? So for that, we need to have those kind of transformations. For that, marketing mix model need to be built if you want a really, really robust model. And that's how all the most companies that I work with in CPG space, right? So that's how they do it. They use advertising. They use a different product for marketing for capturing marketing ROIs and capturing the impact of advertising. But it can be done in a quick and dirty way on demand planning too.
One question which we have is from Tapas Totopadhi. Can you give examples of SLAs?
Yeah, so as I mentioned on the SLA, every service of Azure comes with backed up SLAs, and each service comes with different set of uptime. For example, 99.9, it ranges up to 5 nines, and every service has its own. So when we go to Azure documentation, it gives you all the details of various uptimes available for each service, and this is measured on a monthly basis.
There was one from Mr. Vinod Kode, similar to demand forecasting. Anything on inventory optimization using AI ML on principles of IQR, inventory quality ratio? That's one question.
No, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. In fact, we have a module that I did not cover today, which is inventory management, inventory optimization, which works parallelly with the override section. So yes, we do have something with inventory optimization. It takes into account your inventory data, your in stock and in transit and safety stock and all that information. And then it gives an optimized inventory, which can be directly used by buyers for demand planning and buying. Right? So we definitely do have inventory optimizer, and we'll be happy to show it to you offline or in a one-on-one session.
Okay. The other question is from Deepak Paul. It says, all happening in Azure or any SaaS is sitting on top of it. I mean, the UX shared during the presentation.
So the computation is happening on Azure, and all the codes get deployed on Azure, yes.
The next question is from Mr. Madhusudan. Do you have any reports available for real estate modules?
We don't have it readily available, but we can, like we have worked with real estate companies in forecasting prices for different this thing, right? For different properties, but we do not really have a handy report. But we can if you can talk us through the data, we can definitely show you something.
Like we said in the beginning, I think we will definitely address these questions again separately. Obviously, there are questions related to data connectivity and transformations and processing and so on. There are also questions related to demand planning, forecasting, and how they all stitch together. So like we said, this is going to be a series, and therefore, basis this response and relevance, we will tailor our next sessions with very specific focus based on feedback from this session. We will also reach out with more information on this current webinar in terms of its recorded versions and answers to questions and so on. We really appreciate the time that you've put in here. I think if there are no more questions, I'll conclude this by thanking you all.